Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today is May the 6th, 2022, and we are back with some news and updates. Primarily just some news, but a little bit of updates. Stick around guys, because we got a lot of information. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future updates and future guides that will be coming down the road. Link to Patreon can be found in the description below. First up here on the list, we have the Flying Iron Simulations major Spitfire update, and they are not lying. Look at this incredible changelog. They have absolutely done some very, very serious overhaul of this aircraft. Everything from visual fidelity, system performance, GPS ability, as well as flight model tweaks, which we're definitely going to be flying the Spitfire later this afternoon as well and doing a video on it. It's been quite a long time since I was in it, and so it should feel like a brand new aircraft based on everything that's been done here. New artwork that has been done to the aircraft, like absolutely a completely big change. Even the sound, you guys know I talk about sound a lot, and sound is one of those things that often gets not necessarily ignored. I would never say that, but definitely maybe not prioritized the way that I personally feel it should be, as it can be such a huge immersion breaker when you have all the visual effects, you have the flight model, everything's feeling good, and you just have that sound that, you know, it's like hearing a toaster inside of a Mustang, you know, it just doesn't make sense. So, you know, anytime that I see sound changes, sound and graphical changes always catch my opinion or always catch my appeal. But it seems like this is basically a brand new aircraft. I mean, I'm blown away by this flight model changes and the systems changes. I mean, that is a massive update. Do you VR pilots better VR view? I will agree that the VR view in this aircraft was a little weird. Sort of felt like you were sunken way down. Now that was easily adjusted. Honestly, I never really had any problems. I would just adjust the cameras and change it. But it sounds like they've done a lot of that work for us. So much props. See what I did there? To Flying Iron Simulations with their latest release of the Spitfire. Super stoked about this and super excited to see what that's going to be about. Make sure you guys watch the channel because we'll definitely be flying this later this afternoon. Next up, RP Simulations announces the EMB 312 Tecano. Now, if memory serves, the Tecano is is a military trainer that is used very often in the early stages of flight training for the military. I believe it is a two-seater aircraft. Let's find out about that. Yes, so you have your two-seater aircraft. You have typically your trainer will sit in the back, and your lead or your trainee will sit up front. Very maneuverable, very fast little aircraft. I believe it is a turboprop. Very awesome. I actually remember seeing one of these at an air show not too long ago, and I actually got to sit down inside of the cockpit. That was kind of fun. It's very small, I will admit. At least, you know, when you're 6'1". So I mean, I guess everything's small for me. I can imagine some of these guys who are bigger than I am. 6'1" really isn't all that tall when you think about some of these guys. I have a buddy of mine that's 6'4", so you know, whatever. But the aircraft can cruise at 270 miles per hour with a range of almost, let's call it what it is, 1,200 miles. That is not bad. That is not bad at all. You could have some fun in that aircraft. Now, unfortunately, and I know some of you have similar feedback, and I guess this is the real seed in the apple, right? Is do we like it when aircraft are announced this early in the game, right? When you don't have any kind of expectation, we don't have any release date yet, we don't have any kind of price point yet, we don't have any, you know, so it's definitely a teaser. It's definitely a teaser, but again, I think I prefer these kind of aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator versus some of the fast movers, you know, your F-35s, F-14s, 15s, etc. And that's not a shot at anyone who develops that, by the way. I just, from my personal flight enjoyment, I prefer more of an aircraft like this that is more in between the general aviation and military aircraft than the actual military aircraft themselves. I think that's why I like the Warbirds so much. The Warbirds, we know that they're not used for military combat anymore. You know, you're not going to see a Corsair ripping over the skies anymore, you know, in a combat experience. But everybody, when you see a Corsair flying and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish that was me. I want to fly the Corsair. That'd be awesome. You know, it's that nostalgia of hearing them and seeing them and getting the chance to fly one. And I think this is a little bit sort of that mix in between. You know what I mean? You're not actually getting into a military aircraft. And I think that's why I like DCS so much. DCS is fun because you actually get out there and you can release the ordnance. For me, that's what the military aircraft, the modern jets and aircraft are all about. Is I like that dogfight experience or that air-to-ground ground pounding experience, you know, blowing up a tank or whatever it may be. And so seeing the trainer aircraft is actually a kind of a neat perspective. Now, the one thing that would really be awesome to see finally hit the simulator, and I really hope it does sometime, is a shared cockpit. You know, a functional, native ability to share the cockpit. I think that would really... I mean, when you think about it, actually, any of these aircraft, that would be awesome because you could really get that trainee experience. Anyway, just a thought. So, the Embraer EMB 312 Tecano on its way to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I hope you guys are excited as I am for these kind of aircraft. Like I said, they definitely grab my appeal a bit more than some of the jets, but good stuff coming. Flybywire A32NX updated to the stable release version 8.0. Now, they have a bunch of options that have been coming along with the flypad, as well as just the overall performance in the aircraft. There are tons of features that have been added to the flypad, so make sure you guys pay very close attention to that, as well as major system improvements to the stable release version inside of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Listing just a few of them here. You guys feel free to pause the screen and go through these. I will say the Flybywire A320, you know, we talked about this a little bit while back when we first saw the I wouldn't say the first, but when we saw the last announcement from Phoenix in regard to their A320. All I'm going to say is if they don't get on the ball with that soon and really get that aircraft out here, they're going to lose the market, in my opinion, to Flybywire, because unless they really bring something massively different that the Flybywire A320 can't provide, it's going to lose its ability to, in my opinion, be a functioning sell point. And opinions may vary. You know, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. You know, what would it take for you to buy a payware version of the A320 over the fly-by-wire version, given all of the work that's being put into fly-by-wire, how fast it is developing? I mean, when you think about it, they took an aircraft that was completely default, basically featureless. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Let's call it what it was. Almost none of the functionality inside the cockpit was there. The flight model, we all know about it. We can go on and on about what it used to be, the default A320s. I mean, if you guys ever want to humor yourselves, you'll want to pull your hair out. Do a flight in the fly-by-wire A320 as it is, and then do that same flight in the default. And tell me how many of you actually make it to takeoff before you say, nope, I'm not doing this. So with the fly-by-wire coming along so far and so fast, and the team getting more and more advanced and more skilled and adding more and more features and third-party integrations, what would it take for you to be willing to buy the Phoenix A320? Now, I'm going to buy it primarily for you guys. My experience with the A320 and having the A320 guide, I think that for the most part, I'll be able to jump in it and just fly it that day it launches. And so you guys get to see some differences and hear my opinions of it, of course. But from an outsider's point, if I didn't have the guide and I didn't have the experience with the A320 I have, and I didn't have the channel, and truly, I enjoy giving that information out to you guys. I like the idea of being able to be a resource that many of you seem to value. So my concern for the Phoenix guys is that the fly-by-wire A320, especially in the development and experimental versions, it's a beast. It's a beast. And from a simmer standpoint, I don't know how much more would be necessary in order to justify a payware version of the aircraft when you have this amazing aircraft for free that, I mean, it's really not missing much these days from a simmer standpoint, from a novice simmer standpoint, someone who doesn't really fly the A320. So anyway, now stable release. So 8.0. So for those of you who prefer to stay on the safe edge of things, Fly-by-Wire's done it again. So keep up the great work, Fly-by-Wire. As many of you know by now, the Milvez 310 Romeo has released, and it has a price point of $39.99 US. Now, I did a live stream of this last weekend, as well as Milvez did their live stream, and a few others have done one as well. I do want to make something very clear while we're talking about this aircraft right out of the gate. There's been a lot of debate about, my outlook on the 414 versus the 310, and some people even went as far as to say that I shifted my opinion. I want to make that very clear right now. My opinion of the 310 did not change at all. In my personal, humble opinion, the 310 is the best general aviation aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator to date. That is as of May 6, 2022. The features and realism and immersion opportunities that this aircraft provides to the simulator is absolutely outstanding. Failure, wear and tear on the aircraft, maintenance requirements, pre-flight checks no longer being able to be ignored, an experience from a rental position or an owner position. There's just so much goes into the flight model. I thought was absolutely fantastic. And again, it's important to remember that I'm not a pilot. So, I mean, obviously you have to take that information into consideration when taking advice from any of us who are not a pilot. But I can tell you that the experience of flying the aircraft, and quite frankly, again, I have no way to speak of how accurate it is. There are people who have said that it's inaccurate, but I remember when I was on my live stream, Milvez had joined me, and there was a real world 310 pilot, I'm pretty sure, in that stream who was a part of the team and who absolutely said that it was on par. So, I mean, you have to take everything as you choose, but I want to make that very clear. People were comparing the 414, and which is why I flew it the next day, to the 310. I think they're both fantastic aircraft, but I think that the 310 takes the cap. I really do. So in case there was any misconception about where I stood with the Cessna 310, I think it is the best general aviation aircraft currently in the simulator for someone who is looking for a great immersion experience, a challenging and fun flight model, an aircraft that you actually have to pay attention to what you're doing depending on your settings. And that's the other thing. It's so diverse. It gives you the option to decide how real of a flight do you want to have today. And then its ability to save the configuration based on the livery. I mean, literally, even custom liveries that you download for this aircraft, its previous condition can be saved specific to that plane. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But I want to make sure that you guys understood where I was at when it came to the Cessna 310. I was very, very proud. And you guys, some people even said, oh, it's just because he was giving it to him for free. I've been given plenty of free aircraft in the past that you guys have heard me put into the dirt. So I just want to make that very clear. So it just want to call that out as is. I'm an honest guy. And the reason why I keep my opinions as they are, and the reason why I have no problem saying whatever it is that I happen to be thinking, is because I have absolutely lived the life where every dime counted. So for me, it's a very sore spot in the chest, and a very personal spot in the chest of why I have no problem calling out developers. It's our money. It's what we work hard for. And, things across the country and across the world are tough enough as is right now. So, that's why my expectations are pretty high when it comes to me supporting an aircraft. And this one hit all the marks for me, and I called out a few things. One of the things that I absolutely agree with the community on, the exterior textures, I feel like could have been a little bit better under the clean setting, right? It should look like a polished aircraft, and it doesn't. It looks worn. It looks a little flat. But heck, I think there's already a mod on FlightSim.2 that addresses that. Quick fix. And yes, and I know people, before anyone gets jumps on it, people shouldn't have to go out to the community to fix XYZ. If that's the worst thing they had to fix was add a little bit of gloss to the paint, I'm not knocking them for that. All right, on this last segment, I actually debated whether or not I was going to throw this in, but what the heck. So according to Chit Chat across the Microsoft Flight Simulator blog, it sounds like there is a patch in the works for Microsoft Flight Simulator in regard to Sim Update 9 and many of the emerging issues, as were quoted, that have been brought to the attention of Microsoft or the Asobo team. I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie. See, there are no patch notes or details at the time, and that's very concerning to me because that means that Asobo is staying quiet on it. And this isn't me trying to call anyone out. It's a point of concern. It's a point of contention for me. It makes me a little worried. By the way, a couple little tips that I will tell you guys right off the bat. I have found that keeping your community folder as clean as possible seems to be making a difference. I have removed many of my add-ons temporarily. As I fly aircraft that I want to fly, I'm only loading the add-ons that I need for that particular flight. This is where add-ons link or something like that, guys, works really, really well and is a really big aid to this situation. Even whether it be the G3000, for example, the G3000, let's use that. If I am flying an aircraft that does not carry the G3000 or the Garmin series navigation systems or avionics, I will remove it from the community folder before I start the sim. The other thing that I have found, if you find that you are in fact getting consistent crash to desktops, but you haven't physically restarted your computer recently, do that. One of our other viewers pointed that out to me. I started trying it, and sure as heck, it seems to be making a difference, which makes me think that there's some sort of RAM caching issue, but I don't know. That's just speculation, complete speculation there. It makes me feel like certain services aren't shutting down. It'd be interesting to dive into a little bit deeper, but anyway, so there are no patch notes or details at the time, but we are aware of some of these bugs and will deal with the issues reported by Parallel 42 with flickering displays when certain conditions are met. I would really hope that the flickering displays is not the primary focus, and that's not a shot to or trying to reduce that necessity. It's just one of those. Like I'm more concerned about the consistent crash of desktops. This has been the worst experience that I have personally had thus far in the sim. And I've had some bad rides just like the rest of you guys, but I am glad to hear after reading many of the comments on the channel that many of you are doing very, very well with Sim Update 9, and that just goes to show the difficulty in software development. And that's why I put out that apology a while ago about me attacking Microsoft and Asobo so hard. It wasn't fair. It is tough. And then when you throw in all the add-on factors, it makes it difficult. But the other thing to note is that May 17th, the next world update for Italy and Malta are planned. So hopefully, as this article does go to state, or the blog goes to state, nope, there it is. This article goes to state is that hopefully we'll see the patch between now and then. I would really like to see that beforehand, but there's just no telling. But anyway, so cross our fingers. Let's pat Microsoft and Sobo on the back, lift them up, whatever we got to do to keep them pushing hard on the sim, and hopefully we get some of these issues resolved. All right, my friends, well, that is going to cut it for today's news and updates. I hope you guys found this information and my jabbering and opinions valuable. I truly hope that they do. Let me know what you guys feel about all of this information down in the comments below. I always love hearing from you guys. If you have any tips and tricks in regard to the simulator performance, please be sure to put those out too. Make sure you guys check out FSR's or 2020 FSR's flight channel. He's got a bunch of performance tips videos that were definitely very, very helpful. Although please keep in mind, as we talked about previously, it's a roll of the dice. Every system is different, so you never know if it's what may work for you may not work for someone else, and vice versa. Next, be on the lookout for a review flight of this particular aircraft with its latest major update. I'm super excited to give this a shot, and that will be coming out later this evening. Until then, I hope everyone has a wonderful Friday, and I'll see you guys soon.